Our next guest is here at South by Southwest in his role as a Goodwill Ambassador for the United Nations Development Program, but you might just recognize him from a small show I vaguely heard about that aired for 8 seasons on HBO called Game of Thrones. Please welcome the Kingslayer himself, Nikolaj Coster-Waldau. Sir.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here.
It's great to be here.
My entire crew is most excited that you are here.
Well, I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, sir.
So, hey.
You are here at South by Southwest to talk about a very important issue that's close to your heart, climate change. Mm-hmm. You are here as a representative of the United Nations. How did that partnership come about?
Well, I mean, you just mentioned that television show, and,
yes.
and they called me six years ago now, I think. It asked if I wanted to be a Goodwill Ambassador. And I understood absolutely, I was very excited because I fundamentally believe in the UN and working together, and that the big issues we face are global. We need global solutions. And I also understood that they asked me because I was on that show and had it was seen all over the world, so there was an immediate recognition. So maybe that could help them. And then I got that, and it's been an amazing experience and journey. I've learned so much myself. I've been very lucky to travel around the world with the UNDP and seeing the amazing work that, so many people, everybody wants. I haven't really met anyone who don't want a better world.
Have you met some of our politicians, sir?
No. I've heard them speak, and sometimes you do want to know. But I do believe even if we disagree on solutions, I do believe everybody has the intention of creating a better world for the future.
I don't want you to get too political if you don't want to, but you have a very noble aspiration there, and I wish it was true. But we have the last president who says climate change is a hoax created by China, and climate change is not a hoax. It's not created by China. It's very real.
No, I understand. No, I'm not. Yeah. That's obviously absurd, but it's easy to see through it. You understand that people have financial reasons for maybe sometimes altering the truth. I think that whole thing is a scary thing. Right now we see in the world the whole term of fake news was kind of invented here in the last.
We exported that to the world. I apologize.
And it's a very, very dangerous thing because suddenly there is no such thing as truth anymore. Yeah. You can make stuff up. Like we have a war now in Ukraine where suddenly it's a special operation. It's about freeing people where you go, no, you're just invading. This is insane. But that whole idea of if we just tell a lie enough times, it becomes its own truth, which is horrible. But I think talking about climate change, it's not a new thing. When I went to school, and that's a long time ago, it was on the agenda. It was something we knew about, that we had to do. We knew fossil fuels was a dangerous thing in the long term. We have to transition away from that. We've known this for so long, and unfortunately, like with so many other things, we have to see it. And with climate change, it takes a long time, and it's difficult to say that one event is obviously not proof that climate change, because the climate changes all the time.
Yeah.
But what we can see, and I think what's obvious now, if you look, just any of the last 10 years, is that we have these horrible extreme weather patterns that are so out of whack, and funnily enough, they correspond to what the scientists have been telling us, that if we don't change our ways, we're going to have a very unstable future.
That's a very diplomatic way of saying it. If we have a future, but it's a good point that
it's early in the morning. So
we were talking about this even when I was in 8th grade. But there's in the last 10 years, especially, in fact, the last 5 years, it has accelerated to such a point where even the timeline has shifted forward. We thought, till 2100, 2090, we'd have something.
Yeah.
And now it's like, no, we got 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
It's urgency.
Yeah.
And that urgency is not met by many of our political leaders. Here you are as a representative, one of the faces of Game of Thrones. When you go out and meet many of these leaders, both in the private sector and the public sector, what's the pitch that you make to them that we have to act right now?
I think the pitch is what people make. And I think the strongest pitch for everyone is that what you see now is that the political will is coming because it's the will of the people. It's easy to blame our politicians always, and we do, and we need to keep them accountable. But there's also a system in place that enables them. There's a lot of private interests that don't want to have that change. But I think what's so encouraging now is that you see a real shift overall. There's a value shift I've seen in the private sector, where we've gone through a very decades of this idea that profit is the most important thing, no matter what, to a more I would almost say holistic approach to business. Obviously, profit is very important. You need to.
You're not anti-profit.
No, of course not. No. That's
that might be the most controversial thing you say to that, so I want to make sure. Yeah,
no.
Profit's there.
You need to make money, but it can't be on the expense of everything else,
especially
on Earth. And also, it's just not sound business-wise, because any business who has a long-term idea of their of staying alive. It's just going to be too costly if we let this thing get out of control.
Well, speaking about life, what's the point of having a business if we're not here? Like literally.
No, but that's exactly it. And also, it's easy to point you. We live in a time when it's so easy. There's the whole finger pointing, and you guys are fools, and we have the truth over here. No, the thing is, when it comes to certain very important issues such as this, we're all in this together, and that's what we have to. We have to stop this whole. With us, against us. This is a massive issue that affects everyone. It doesn't matter what your where you stand, you're going to be affected by this.
Climate change is a bipartisan killer. It's coming after all of us. And speaking about survival, you have an initiative and a campaign called Don't Choose Extinction.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Well, I think it's now been watched, was it 1.1 billion times now. It's been a very successful campaign. It was a very simple way of showing, of kind of just speaking, getting to the core of what this is about. And then you have this dinosaur that enters the UN Assembly and basically just says, what are you doing, guys? I mean, you are choosing extinction over yourself. Like, we've done that. That's not a good thing.
Learn from us.
But it's also focusing on one thing that I didn't even know about. I don't know if you knew about this. But we know we have to transition away from fossil fuels. We are subsidizing the fossil fuel industry. With last year, it was almost $500 billion.
Sadly, I do know about this.
This year, because of the rising oil prices, we could be very close to $1 trillion. I mean, the numbers are so insane. And then what we're saying is, and this is something that goes way back to the 70s, where there was an oil crisis. These subsidies was put in place, to keep prices low, and then they just never went away. And they've just been allowed to sit there because obviously it's great for the fossil fuel industry.
Well, not for us, but yes, for the industry, it's very good.
No, but that's the thing, and that's an absurd amount of money that we are basically funding our own demise, and that's not smart business.
You talk about funding our own demise. We're seeing how reliant we are on unsustainable energy sources. We're seeing right now with the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, with the oil prices going up. There at least is a moment here that I've seen in the past 2 weeks where people are like, why are we so reliant on oil? This is, maybe we should actually invest more in sustainable energy. Do you think there is an appetite here when it comes to education where people say, you know what, we don't need this?
I think that there's a couple of things. I think that, yes, it's quite, this absurd natural resource that is so amazing. Oil has generated so much wealth.
Thank you, oil. This is a safe space for oil.
But we got carried away.
Yeah.
And we can't burn that much. It's just not good for us. But the other thing is, of course, that it's unfortunate that we allow certain countries to kind of do whatever they want because they have this resource. It's just for our own security. It's not smart to be dependent on foreign oil. So I think that's one thing. But at the core of this, it's just that we have to transition away. We know we have to. Everybody knows that now.
Yeah.
Except maybe
Yeah, the fossil fuels industry.
Yeah,
and
and
some
I understand,
politicians.
but this is like it really is like a replay of big tobacco back in the day.
Right.
Well, it's like when finally it was like official. No, this is actually bad for you. Everybody had known about this for a long time, right? It wasn't like a surprise. Like you said at school, you knew about it.
We learned about it. Yeah.
We learned about it. I learned that about school back in the 80s. So I'm like, it's been around. But it is time now because we are literally running out of time.
Yeah.
So you have these big reports that come out every other year from scientists from around the world just talking about what will happen if we don't take action. Yeah. And every report that comes basically goes, it's getting worse.
A horror story.
It gets worse.
Yeah.
And so as you said yourself, maybe 30 years ago it was like sometime in the future this could have really serious...
2150, 2100, that's what you used to say.
And now you go, no, it's...
2035.
You got 2035, we haven't changed course, then it's going to be a disaster. So, to get back to this campaign, very simple, saying, let's just not spend $1 trillion, $500 billion a year on something that is basically against our own interests. I mean, let's use that money to transition to renewable energies. That's really the core of it.
It's common sense. You've convinced me, but there are people watching right now. They'll say, "Listen, I wasn't on Game of Thrones. I don't have a TV show. I'm an average Jose. What can I do? I feel overwhelmed."
No, well,
the person who's watching right now who wants to do something, but they feel like, I can't believe that this is happening, and my elected officials aren't doing it.
I understand that, but I think that it is really at the core is talking to politicians, talking to your friends, talking to your families, and we can all do little things, and right now the prices have gone up on gas. People are suddenly going, okay, we have to. I can't drive as much as I used to because this is too expensive. Little things like that, just keep that, just use less. Maybe if you have to get a new car, maybe this is the time to go, maybe I could get one of those.
Electric cars.
Electric, hybrids, maybe there's a way there. And then of course put pressure on politicians because it seems to be becoming less of a partisan issue and more bipartisan where everybody knows that this has to happen. And also because it just makes good sense. It's like,
survival makes good sense.
No, survival makes good sense, but also the fact is that renewables now are cheaper.
Yeah.
So you get more for your money. So it makes sense on every level. The fact, of course, is these industries are extremely powerful. They're very, very.
It's like big tobacco is a good analogy. They spend the money and it's not in their interest.
And a lot of. Unfortunately, the political system as it is, the politicians, like everyone else, need funding, and they're getting a lot of funding from that industry, and that's makes it sometimes a little harder. But the good thing is that it is it's a movement that's happening. We just have to speed it up.
You're here with two other projects, and one of them is on Netflix. We saw it last night, called Against the Ice.
Yeah.
And you filmed in the Arctic. Can you tell people about this particular movie?
Oh, I'm so proud of that movie. It's called Against the Ice. It's based on a true story, an expedition to the Arctic that went horribly wrong, and we shot that. The ambition for me, my wife is from Greenland, so I've been coming there for 25 years now. But I know, and I wanted to. I've never seen a movie like that where. That was shot there. So that was it was a insane ambition, but we pulled it off. So we shot on the glaciers in Iceland, and then we shot in Greenland. And what that does to the movie, and I think when you watch the movie, you can see that. There's no CGI. I mean, there is one polar bear. My director actually at one point said, we should get a real polar bear, Nikolaj. It's an attack on me.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't think that's a good idea. Yeah, but I found this movie from '78. Look, it's a real polar bear. And I was like, yeah, I don't care. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, like, you know what? Maybe we can CGI that polar bear. I can act. I'm an actor.
Yeah, let's just try it. Darling. So we did. But no, so that's the movie. I'm really proud of it.
I saw the movie. I'm like, man, this man is very cold in this movie. I hope someone heat this man up. And also another question we had, because Waikia, who was one of my teammates, saw it as well. A lot of dogs die in this movie.
Oh my God! I mean,
This is like the most.
No,
like poor dogs.
Yeah, the dogs are very happy. No animals were hurt
Okay.
in the making of this movie, but it is a true story, and this is what happened. If you don't eat, whether you're a human or a dog, eventually you will run out of fuel and you will die.
Did you see climate change, the effects of climate change when we were filming in Greenland?
I've seen it. I've also done a documentary where I travel around Greenland, and it's an interesting thing because it's kind of like the canary in the coal mine. They have all these glaciers, and you can literally see it from year to year how they're receding. And you go, well, does that really matter whether there's a mile of ice or 2 miles of ice? There's so much. But of course, all this ice turns into water and it goes into the oceans, and then suddenly
it rises. In
the Maldives, you have a family that has, their fields ruined because of the flooding. So it has consequences. Or look at, I know you saw from Sydney, Australia, they had flooding that they'd never had before.
Yeah.
And of course, on its own, can you prove that that's climate change? No, you can't prove it.
But I see the water rising.
But the evidence is pretty overwhelming.
You see with your eyes. You see the glacier melting.
That's the thing. Yeah. What happened? You've had that here in Texas as well. You just see these storms, and we've always had storms. Yeah, but this is so often. It's so extreme, and it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, you don't need to be a scientist.
No,
you don't need to
and
look at the data.
I think that's the big change that's happened, where it's gone from being a theoretical thing to being a real thing, where we feel it, we see it, we experience it. And you go, oh, this is nice, this is not good. And what we know is that, this is, in the perfect world, as good as it gets, because it's going to get a lot worse.
For those who are skeptical, and this is due to misinformation, bringing it back full circle, where we're talking about facts are under assault, truth is under assault, in an unprecedented way that you and I, growing up, we did not see this. For those who are watching right now who are saying, I'm still not convinced, what's your pitch to them?
Just the pitch is like everyone else is saying. Get more information, try to inform you, and try to go from what is like solid science, not on feelings. I mean, it's kind of become, we live in a time now where the argument saying, well, I don't feel like that, I don't feel that, is suddenly valid. It's not valid. It's not enough that you don't like the idea of something.
I think someone said facts don't care about your feelings. Someone said that.
Well, it's a good point.
Yeah. I have to ask this, and you might roll your eyes, but if I don't ask you this, my cast is going to rebel.
I thought it was a fantastic idea.
My crew is going to rebel against me. There's going to be pain against me. We have Game of Thrones fanatics around us right now.
All right.
Okay.
Hit me.
All right, here we go. Here's a question from one of our Waikia, actually. She said, I've got to ask about Game of Thrones. How did you feel about how your character ended in the show?
I've never had that question before.
Yeah.
It's so good. Listen, it's an ending.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was great. I thought the Dan and David, the two creators of this show, they worked on this show for 15 years. They had this was the ending that they created, and I understand there's a lot of people who wish there was something other and different. And
no, it wasn't negative. Just
no. But there's been a lot of talk about the ending of Game of Thrones, and I really have nothing to add to that whole thing.
But here's for those who haven't seen the show. The show starts off, Jamie casually pushes a kid off the balcony. Kid gets paralyzed.
See, this is interesting, because I would put it like this. It starts out, they have a man who's desperately in love with a woman. She is his sister.
That's a very good fact.
It's a complicated thing.
To mention, yes.
They have children together. A child, a young kid, sees them. This kid is if this kid tells anyone what he's just seen, it means the death of his love of his life. It means the death of his children. So it's literally this kid or my family. That's the choice. He chooses his family. What would you choose?
You've put me in a very awkward situation because I don't have any siblings. If I did, I would not sleep with them in any way, shape, or form, and I would not push a child off the balcony. But I understand the motivation, and you actually get to this. You get me to this question I want to ask: is the motivations of Jamie throughout the show? Like you mentioned, he's in this very complicated situation. He does what he does because he wants to protect his family. He wants to protect the love of his life, who just happens to be his sister. But then there's an arc where he's a fierce warrior, Kingslayer. Loses his hand, right? Then gets humbled. Then falls in love with another character. And then at the end, he has the controversial ending where he goes back.
Well, I mean, he again, you know, he absolutely has an arc, and he has, you know, he evolves as a human being. Doesn't change the fact that he's a very loyal
That's right.
man to his family. And at the end of it, there's this woman who's a raving lunatic at this point, but he still sees something else there. And he's like, she can't be left alone. I mean, I have to go back. I have to. She's not gonna. He just can't. Like, you know. And he even wishes he couldn't, but he has to go.
It's a testament to your portrayal of this character, because we sat there and we just casually said, oh yeah, he sleeps with his sister. And I think it's the only time that a character who does so many dastardly things and also sleeps with the sister is so well liked by so many people. How'd you pull that off?
No, I think that, yeah, you're right. You would never sleep with your sister, but I think all of us do things that might not be that. I think the fact is he's not a bad guy. You know, you can, it actually, when we talk about it, it actually makes sense. We might not agree with the morals, if you will. But he's not a psychopath. He's not doing things out of like, oh, now I'm going to be really evil. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. Suddenly I was thinking, sitting here going, well, I can't believe I'm still talking about this. But this is probably going to be in like 20 years from now. So I go, oh, yes.
Yeah, you could be like Oscar winner and Nikolaj. You're like, but what about Jamie's motivations?
Yeah, but also like I just found myself falling into like a strong defense for this.
I was so surprised.
Fictional character. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
I feel you had a very strong, robust defense of your character and his motivations.
I know.
Is there something you know? I talked to a lot of actors who get connected to a role they've played. Obviously, they're more than that. You've done more. You hear also with Flea, a documentary you've done. You did Against the Ice. You've done a lot of amazing things, and you will continue to do amazing things. But for a majority of the world, wherever you go, to them you will be Jamie Lannister. Yeah. And for you as an actor and as just a person, do you sit there and go, I'm going to own it, or is there a frustration? They're like, oh, Jamie was so many years ago.
No. I own it, but I mean, it doesn't mean that I have the same perspective. Like, I absolutely understand that, you know, Game of Thrones has been watched all over the world, and you know, it's funny because we were with the UNDP been traveling to like so many distant corners of the world, and I still haven't been to a place where they hadn't seen Game of Thrones. I've been to quite a few places where they haven't seen some of my other movies. Does not mean I'm not as passionate about those projects. I get it, but obviously for me, it doesn't take up as much space.
Right.
You know, for me, it was like when I did Game of Thrones, I would do 1 or 2 movies the same year that I would spend more time on. Right. Those projects would be so much bigger. And then, I'm doing this television show, but I get it. It's fine. And it's allowed me to do a lot of things. It's obviously allowed me to work with the UNDP, which I'm really proud of.
And to come here
and talk to you right now.
To come here to talk about climate change.
4 years ago, I was here with another movie called Small Crimes that I really loved, and it's like happy days.
And it's allowed you, like you said, to travel the world and actually use your celebrity and this character to talk about important issues that are affecting us, climate change. There's a call to action for this campaign. What's the call to action?
Thank you. That's a good thing.
You can look at the camera and tell people.
Yes, you can go to globalmindpool.com, right? Globalmindpool.com. And that's thank you for reminding me.
That's why they pay me the big money. And big money is one falafel sandwich.
One of the other things, that's the second part of this big campaign, is kind of to engage people and to say that, well, there are things you could do. And you actually tried to help me earlier with a question. Say, is there something you could do? And I'm like, I'll be there in half an hour. I'll be so sharp. But listen, go to globalmindpool.com, and there there's all these things you can do. There's a lot of things you can learn about. There's a lot of information which are which is definitely certified by scientists from around the world, that you can trust. And there's also things you can do, to make your voice heard. And the UNDP is gathering all the data that's coming through. So there is a real thing to pass on to the policymakers, saying, listen, we have 2 billion people here from all over the world. They actually believe this thing would be a good solution. So it's a way to be engaged. GlobalMindPool.com.
GlobalMindPool.com. You're speaking here at South by Southwest. Thank you, sir, for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nikolaj, thanks for stopping by, and thank you for all tuning in. Nikolaj's panel, We Don't Have Time, Act on Climate Now, is happening this afternoon at 2:30 p.m. in the Austin Convention Center, room 16AB. And be sure to check out Flea, the Oscar-nominated animated docudrama he produced, as well as Nikolaj's new Netflix film, Against the Ice, which is available now. You can watch all of our studio interviews on the South by Southwest TV app, available on Apple TV, Roku, Android TV, and Amazon Fire. These interviews are also available on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/SXSW. And for a complete list of our interview schedule, check out sxsw.com/studio. I'm Wajhat Lee. Thanks for watching.